Global food prices have fallen for the fifth month in a row, driven by record harvests and rising stockpiles. This easing is helping to stabilize international markets, but many African countries continue to struggle with high food costs, partly due to import dependencies and local supply challenges. Rising rice and vegetable oil prices also highlight that not all staples are becoming cheaper. Joining us now to explain these trends is Monika Tóthová, head leader of the Food and Agricultural Organization's Price Index team in Rome. Monika, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Morning to you.
So, global food prices have been falling for months according to certain trends. What is behind this, first of all, and should African consumers be feeling any relief?
Let me first put things a little bit into context. What we are talking here are food commodity prices, right? We are talking about wheat, rice, maize, butter, vegetable oil you mentioned in your introductions. So those are all commodity prices at the bulk level. These are the commodities that the import-dependent countries, for example, would be importing. If, as a country, you are not growing enough wheat, but your consumers like to eat bread, they like to eat bagels, pasta, etc., you have to import wheat. So the price of this wheat has been declining because there is plenty of wheat in the world, right? We had very good harvests in all major producing areas. There were no major shock that would impact the markets. So on this commodity level, we are talking about declines in prices. So what is behind, and as you rightly mentioned, the dairy prices decline, dairy overall, which is a certain formula behind butter, cheese, and milk powders. Dairy, meat, and sugar have declined, while the cereal prices and vegetable oil prices, they pushed up. But again, we are talking about the commodities. It is not what the consumer buys. The consumer is buying something that was further processed, that went through the supply chain. There is also the cost of labor that contributed to this transformation. There is the cost of energy and other costs as well. So, but the good news is we are certainly, globally speaking, when it comes to the prices of food commodities, we are in a better shape than we were, for example, a year ago.
So even with prices easing globally, food costs remain high in many African countries, as we previously mentioned, that not all staples are becoming cheaper. So why is that?
One reason behind this is that the staples that the consumers are buying, not only in Africa but across the world, they might not necessarily be traded, right? A good example, for example, is the case of white maize as opposed to yellow maize. White maize, which is consumed a lot in South Africa, it is a product that is not really broadly traded, right? You have some production in Mexico, some production in Southern Africa, but it is not that if you have a shortage of white maize, you will go out to the global market and you will purchase it, and you will then supplement what you are producing domestically. So many other products, if you are producing, for example, your consumers enjoy certain types of cheeses, they enjoy certain cuts of meat, those could be defined, the prices are defined more on the local level. Similarly, for the FAO, we don't look at the price of perishables, right? So there will be no price of eggs, there will be no price of fruits and vegetables, etc. So global commodities, local food costs, that is what your consumers are paying, is a little bit more defined and a little bit more complicated.
So what are the biggest risks that could reverse gains for Africa? Because as the Food Agricultural Organization, there's been a warning that current market stability may not be permanent.
The market stability is never permanent, right? That's basically what is the defining source of the market. You can have a shock from anywhere that can erode these gains. So what we are looking at, or what we are keeping in the back of our minds when we are analyzing the food commodity markets is there going to be some sort of a shock? Now, shocks can come in many shapes and forms. One of them, for example, the most frequent one, is a weather-related shock. For now, which would then impact the amount of staples that is being produced. The good news here is that the staples themselves, such as wheat and maize, are produced across the whole world or in many parts of the world. So if you have a drought, for example, that affects one part of the world, there is a good chance that the other part of the world is still going to produce. But what we are keeping an eye on are weather-related shocks, are developments in different types of policies, for example. They could be transportation bottlenecks, which the last year and a half have been holding up, but I'm sure the listeners might recall the shipping challenges in the Red Sea, or the drought-induced reduction in the Panama Canal, which prevented many ships from passing the two main arteries. So those are the main shocks that we would consider at this point.
Looking ahead, what should African governments do to take advantage then of these current global supply situation, especially to protect food security?
Well, a natural thing would be that if you can afford it, you take advantage of the lower prices, right? Now, having said that, there is also, as it was already mentioned, the question of the exchange rate. So if your currency, because the prices on the global markets are denominated in US dollars usually. So if, depending on how your currency is vis-a-vis with the United States dollar, there might be some possibility to import and store it. However, to do this, I am not here advocating for stockpiling on the national level, but to do this, you also need to have the capacity to store it, right? To store it so the product does not go bad and you can use it again in the future.
Right. Monika, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much. It's always great having these very important conversations with you around food security.
Thank you.
That's Monika Tóthová, leader of the Food and Agricultural Organization's Price Index team in Rome, helping us understand the latest trends in global food prices and what they mean for Africa. We now enter the third and final hour of Rise and Shines with me, Asanda Peda and Peter Ndoro. Good morning. If you've just joined us, 8 o'clock Central African time it is. Here's your news with Onele Nzinzi.